Hello and welcome to the next webinar in 12D's training webinar series. My name is Lisa Stewart and I'm the Marketing and Communications Coordinator at 12D Solutions. 12D's training webinars showcase common industry challenges, taking a close look at industry best practices and how these can be implemented using 12D products. The aim of these webinars is to upskill 12D users and broaden their understanding of the capabilities of 12D products. We run these webinars regularly and record them for posting through our website and on YouTube. The previous webinars from this training series, as well as the webinars from our Industry Solutions series, are all available on our YouTube channels if you missed those. During this presentation, you'll be able to type your questions along the way, as shown on the screen, and we'll answer as many as possible throughout the webinar. At the end, I'll email your questions to the presenter for his insights. Today's webinar will be presented by Peter Tainton, who has over 20 years of experience in various facets of road design. He has been engaged in large projects for several major councils and government road authorities, and has worked closely with our programmers in the implementation of a variety of design features within 12D Model, including the superalignment and design speed tables, construction subgrade detailing, design geometry components, overlays, pad design interface and visualization. Today's presentation, Trimesh BIM Create Edit Part 1 Basic, is episode 5 in this series. This webinar will look at simple creation of everyday survey or design features, so construction and landscape fencing, single-shaped trenching, structures, use of profiles to define trimesh shape, offsets, spacing and attributes. Over to you, Peter.
Welcome everyone to the first of our two webinars on Trimesh BIM Objects Create Edit. Shipped to 12D is a variety of shape definitions that can be applied to form trimesh features, such as landscape and construction fences with footings, safety barriers, guardrails, wire rope, retaining walls, bridge profiles, decking, road profiles, services and drainage trenches. The definitions are stored in a file called 12d_trimesh_node_link.4d. This file is to be found in the setups area. You can, as I have done here, copy that file into my working folder, and also you can into your user area. The format is XML. The trimesh shapes are applied to strings, and on previous webinars we have used the supplied definitions to show you how that works. So keep in mind that the strings that you apply this to should have no null levels, not vertices not going back and forwards across each other, or closed strings are not supposed to be closed. Attributes play a large role in trimesh creation and their export to IFC. Attributes can come from the survey or design string, and also project attributes. Attributes can be set and used in the creation of the Trimesh BIM object itself. I will start with the creation of a standard fence that comprises a post and some footings and some railings and palings as segments. So under BIM, Trimesh, Create. In previous webinars we used the Apply option, and today we're just going to use the Create. So when we select Create, it creates a viewing perspective view called Preview, and we can just select that to the right hand side. So on that view will be your strings created and previewing what you're trying to create. It's on a temporary model, so once you finish, the model will be deleted. So again, as I said, I copied the standard file into my working folder, so it comes up on this drop-down list. And so these are the ones that I've just copied across that I shipped with 12D. So I'm just going to go Create New. So I want to create a vertex segment type. And we'll put in here demo. So we have a two-tier structure for our tree structure. We may in a later stage allow you a bit more than just a two tree. So this would be a landscape fence. And working files place I want to create it. So it's made up of the vertex, which is a post and footings, and again the segments, which is a paling and rails. So we're in our vertex part here, so we go Create New. we'll create the post and the footing in the one definition, but remember you can actually just create them one per definition. That then allows you to swap and change between different types of footings and different types of posts. So I go active, my horizontal type, my choices. I have rectangular, circular, sphere, profile. This is a profile here, like an I-beam, draw it 0, which we'll use for one of our posts later on. Capping in a 12DA file. We won't address all these things today, but to start with, we'll just look at a typical rectangular shape. The ones with superstring after them, you can use if you want to define a post or a footing. It just reduces the number of points that are used as compared to a Trimesh. But sometimes with the simple posts and footings, most times you'll be able to just use the Trimesh option. So rectangular, I go into properties. So the size of my fence is 0.1 by 0.1. I can set up thicknesses if I want. I'll give it a color. I'm just going to use these shade colors here, and just a variation of those shades. You can use any color you want. For the posts, there's an option here to set up a access to the perpendicular and half angle process. So when you do apply this to a real world string, then it will actually rotate the rectangle or the post perpendicular to the string, and any half angles that you may encounter as well. So that shape is then going to be applied or extruded, for want of a word, along a path or a height. So that's the vertical part. So here I can say height, and I want that to be say 1.8 meters high. So I go preview, and the preview will show you the starting of the fence. The fence itself is, as I said, this is just a preview, but under defaults you can specify what you're seeing here. So in that case, I might want this to be more like a fence, so 2.5 meter interval. And I want to see, say, 3 bays, just to get a bit of a feel for what the fence would look like. So when I go preview, I then get the 3 bays and the fence. So again, this is only a preview, where the idea of this is to save all the information for the definition. Then you apply it in the real world. Just my footing. Obviously, I turn around and put a name on the footing, so the Trimesh gets that name. I can also go to attributes. So under the utilities global attributes, you can edit and set your own. So this has a direct link to that. So I can sit here and drop down to fencing, and just use one of the standard ones that we set as an example for you. So I can just say that's a timber fence, but you could edit that one and add in coating and all that sort of stuff, and build up the information that you need for any IFC output. So again, if I want to, then I can do offsets, offsets left and right here from the string that you're going to apply it to, and also a vertical offset. So if we look at our next one, we can apply our footing. So we go to a circle, and again go to our property. What size footing do we want? So 0.35. We've got a color. We'll select one of the visualization colors here. So that means there'll be a texture applied to the concrete. We'll still tick half angle, not that it makes that much difference with a circle. I go set, and again it's going to be a height, and we can put a minus because it's 0 is the actual string itself here. So positive is the distance above. So for a footing, you'd put in here minus 0.75. And again, go preview. So then you'd also put in information about the or a name at least, and any attributes that you may want to store with that. There is a find option on the panel, so you can find the actual item that belongs to that entry in the grid. So when you do have quite a few, it's a handy little feature. So if I go to my segment part, and this is where I'm going to create the rails and palings. Again, you can do those separately if you want. I'm just going to combine them both together. So again, for the segment type, which is the points, the types running along the string that way, I have the choice again of rectangular, but I have rectangular horizontal, rectangular vertical, and these ones then can allow a spacing as well. Circular, profile, you can do a path, and we'll explain some of that later on. So these are also allowed to be superstrings as well. So when you are doing fences and things like that where you may have just wires, it's probably a better idea to call them use a superstring rather than a tri-mesh option. So we're just doing the actual railings here, so we're going to pick rectangular horizontal. So I drop into here, so it's 0.05 and it's 0.1 deep, and we'll just pick up a color. Now we're going to position our railings similar to these profiles that I've drawn, so it's probably a better idea to make them invert. So when you specify a height, they'll be to the bottom of the rail. It's up to you how you want to work, whether invert, center, or obvert. So again, the height here is 0.3, and I go preview. So that then creates my my centered railing. So again, I can then turn around and put the next one in. So again, I just go rectangular horizontal, so 0.05, 0.1, and we'll pick up our color. And we want to go invert this time. And our height, just by the screen here, I can see it's about 1.26. So 1.26 and preview. So we've got our railings and that sort of stuff working as well there. So again, we can now come into to do the palings part, and they're also segments. So if I then go and select them, they're just simple rectangles. So I go rectangular vertical this time rather than the horizontal. So I drop into here, and the width is 0.02, and the paling is 0.1 wide. And again, I pick up a color. Okay, now the heights of the palings, we'll make them about 1.7. And the spacing, about 0.125. And preview. So we've now got our railing and our paling. So again, if you want to offset the palings, you can turn around and make that sort of 0.05. It'll then turn around and put the palings offset for you. So again, you can do a vertical offset as well. So you can go 0.1 here and go preview, and it'll then lift that paling sense up to there as well. Yeah, so it's a general consensus of building a simple paling fence, just simple posts and a footing, and away you go. So I can turn around and go right out that post. So now I'll go create new. So we'll grab this one again, and we'll call this one, say, panel fence. Again, we'll go into our vertex, create a new, we'll just call this one post and plate. Excuse me. This time, instead of doing a rectangular one, I want to use profile. So I'm going to select profile. So I pick this button in the grid. It brings up a box and allows me to select any drawn profile. This one happens to be at 0.0, but they can also be slightly offset in relation to 0.0. So I go into my properties, and I can specify a color, rotate half angle again, vertical type, it's going to be a simple height, and a height is going to be 1.8. So preview, sorry, I picked height there or path rather than height. So it builds up my fence profile. So I've now got an I-beam that represents the post itself. If I then want to add in a plate down the bottom, it'll be a rectangle. It might be, say, 0.3 by 0.3. I'll give it a color. And again, height, and 0.02. So I may then want in between. I may then want a panel of some sort, and again I can in the previous fence I was able to create the rail and or panel. I go set. So just I meant to show you the featured panel here, but we can just show it quickly. So I go to Profile, select Profile, and I pick the sculptured panel or paling. I go Set, Property, pick up a nice color, and again the spacing 0.125, and go Preview. So inside the property, I just forgot to give it a thickness. So that's under, so when you use profiles, you have to do a thickness here. So it's for depth or length when using a profile, and for spacings, that's all. So now when I go and do that in preview, I can get my fence in there as well. So we could have done that on our previous fence and use that for palings rather than the actual rectangular one. But I can also, we'll just leave that one there and put another one in, turn that one off. So I can go rectangular horizontal, drop into my properties. So I may say 0.1, and I might make this one say 1.7, and I color. And we'll turn around and say it's invert again. And it does the panel for me. So again, I'm able to then save that off as a panel fence with some plate definitions rather than a footing. So again, I can write that off. So we've dropped to a construction fence. This is a similar one using profiles. As you can see throughout this presentation, we do use profiles a lot, so they are a handy way to create these objects. So this one here has a string that runs up and does a bend for a post, but it has a diameter set using the properties of a superstring. So it has the diameter preset, and also has up the top another string this long that has a diameter preset. Drawn on the side of the fence, on the top here is a rectangular metal panel, and on the front of the fence is another rectangular panel. So we'll select those as profiles when we create our construction fence. There's a string drawn here with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vertices. We're going to use that as a path string to apply some horizontal wires. So again, I'll go into my Create New, and we're going to call this one Demo. And this one will be a construction fence. Right, so for my posts, I'm going to go Create New. So we'll just call this one Posts and Plate. Again, remember you can keep those separate. So in this ones here, I've already drawn these ones here, so I can use the Populate panel. So Populate then allows me to go and select the strings I've drawn that have the diameter preset on them. So I pick that one, and when I go Cancel and Set, it'll then turn around and fill out the information for me. So in relation to the type, the properties, and also the path string, which is the coordinates of this path of the string itself. So I go Preview, I get these strings like that. Sometimes the vertical ones here, depending on whether they're completely vertical or not, it can sometimes be worthwhile just making those ones circular trimeshes rather than superstrings. You can, in these ones here, you can set a thickness to those pipes. So in this case here, I can go under Properties, and I can make that 0.01, and then I can go Set and Preview again, and it has a diameter. So you can do that to the superstring pipe as well as a tri-mesh. So that's my fences done. Again, as we did before, quite simple to create a rectangular mesh, so 0.22, or a plate rather, and pick up a size or a color, and this time it'll be a height like we did before, 0.02, and preview. So the rest of these are all segment orientations. So I go into create, and these ones will all be called wires and panels. So again, I go into this one and I select profile. The profile I want is the top panel. So I've drawn that. It's set, and then preview again. So you can see now it's now drawn the panel on the top. I just simply go and insert another line, select profile again, select the panel on the front of the fence, and again preview. So these strings here, again, I said form the path where I want wires to go along that way. So I've drawn the path of these strings. So again, I simply just go and insert, and these are circular horizontal. Now these can be superstrings because they're horizontal, and it's a lot less points than making them tri-meshes, and they're only very small anyway. So there's not going to be any diameter set. So I go circular horizontal, and I go to path. Now the path I want them to be placed upon is that string there. You can enter these manually into that panel, but it's a lot easier to pick a string. So I go into properties, and I look at my diameter, 015, pick up a color, set. Now, if I go preview, right, it'll then show those bars. So drawing the profile of where you want those strings, those wires to go, is quite handy. You can though also just use a simple height and a spacing, like we did with the vertical palings. So I can go into here and say I want that, and I want circular horizontal superstrings. In that case here I go to properties, and I want a diameter. Now you need to specify a height, so we're talking about roughly 1.6 possibly there. We can adjust this. 1.6, the spacing is about 0.2, and I might want to come off the ground about 0.2. So I go preview. It then creates the extra bars for me. So if I get an extra one there that I don't want, I can either change a few values, or I can just make that 1.5, and now it does the 1 bar. So the idea is that it uses this value minus any vertical offset and divides it in to get the number of bars themselves. So again, I'm happy with that. And again, I've also could have specified names for these things. I haven't got time to do that, but you would have called them wire, top wire, mid wire, and also set some attributes and information. So if I go right, that then writes out my construction fence. If I now go to my profile trenching, so again, we're going to create a new one. So we're going to call this one demo / and this will be a trench with conduits by 3. Might just make that conduit 3, and we're one in our working directory. Now the conduit ones are all, and the same with the other profile ones we're going to do in a moment, are all just segment ones. So we just go into segments and create new, and we'll call this one trench and conduits. So you could actually separate these into 2 separate ones. So to start with, I want my rectangular. So I'm looking at a properties, so I'm looking at a trench, say 0.45 and 0.3 deep. I'll give it pick up a color. Now when I specify my positioning of this rectangle, I'm obviously similar to the other railings. We can specify center or mid or so forth. So we'll turn around and say we want that to be invert. So when I put the height in, it'll be minus 0.1. I get a preview. So again, it's set up my bedding. So again, I might put a name in there, bedding. So then when I put in another rectangle, and again this time will be 0.45 and 0.3, and it's a slightly lighter colour. And again, it's invert, 0.2. So we've now got our bottom area and our top, and this top one will be called backfill. Right, so then I want to finally put in my 3 conduits. Again, you could have done this as a separate one. You had just the trench and the conduits, then you could swap between either or. So I want the conduit will be the circular horizontal. Again, under properties, it'll be 0.05. And we might pick up a color. We might make that invert. So we're looking at our conduit. So I might want to just move that up. I did actually create it, but it's behind the other drawing. So if I put that in, we can also go back and change some of these. We can give these a blending. So if I go back and give each one of those tri-meshes a blending so they're more see-through, we can now see the pipe. So again, this is the pipe up here. So now we want 3 pipes. So we've got to give it a height and a spacing. So we'd say it's 0.2 high. The spacing is 0.1. I go preview. So I end up with a 3. So it's obviously it's still in the center of my trench. So I need to rotate that. So I use the rotation. It then rotates them over. And if I look at my trench, I just need to move it a little bit over this side here. So I can use my offset here, minus 0.1. Preview that. It then moves over my conduits. So I'm happy with that. And again, I can set information about the actual trenching, about information about its BIM, and so forth under attributes. So I go right. So if I draw so in that case there, that would be my design, but I may have also had a string or a 100mm pipe that I've designed, and I want to be able to, that's in the actual string I pick. So I want this trenching to go around that pipe. So I've drawn this with the appropriate size. So I go and create another one. So we'll call this one, and it'll just be trench. We might make that one, say, trench 100 diameter. Go to working folder. Again, they're all segment types. So again, we can turn around and say this is trench. Alright, so I can use the populate command, or I can just simply just go and pick them. So I want profile. So the one I want is the bottom one. So that's going to be my bedding. So I go set, and I drop into properties, and I want the same color as that, and probably maybe I'll leave that as it is. Get set, finish, and then preview. So I've got my first one there. So again, it's just a matter of picking the other ones in the order that you want. So again, profile. And I pick this one, which is going to be my overlay. Drop into properties, and the color. You can change those colors depending on what you want. Preview, and it creates that for me. So again, I can set those different colors if I really wanted to. Again, I can put names on these. So this name here can be the first one that I picked, and this one can be that one there. And again, if I put the last one in, which is the backfill. Backfill is a little bit special in this case here, because I can later on tell it to take the top surface of the backfill and extend up to a tin surface. So again, if I then pick up a color, and if I grab that last size, that last color, So under here I can go to my attributes and I can pick up under the Trimesh profile a thing called extend Trimesh to tin surface. This will then tell that Trimesh, whenever you apply it and specify a tin, to extend the top surface up to the tin. So again, we just type in backfill here and set. So that's enough for our different shapes. So the pipe that we create will fit nicely in here. So again, we can then write that out. So last of all, we'll look at something a bit more complicated. So we're going to look at a bus shelter. So again, we go create, and we'll call this one a demo bus shelter. So under the segment, we'll just go create new, and we'll just call this one slab and panels, just general name. And if I go over here, I can pick up profile, select again the profile of my slab. I can drop into properties, and I can use the visualization colors. Preview. Okay, so this is going to be a bus shelter, so it's only going to have 2 points when it's finally applied in my design field. So under here, I'm just going. This is not a fence anymore. It's going to be something like a 5-meter bus bay. I only need one segment. I get a preview, and I end up with the bay like that. So now I can look at the posts. So I can drop into vertex, go create, and we'll call this one posts and plate. Excuse me. So again, I want a rectangle, and the properties is a fairly decent post, so 0.15 by 0.15. Color. Yes, set. And again, we want height. We're talking about probably 2.15. Let me go preview. So with the bus bay, we're going to obviously have the slab created. So the slab is the actual length of the string. So we'd like the post to come in a little bit. So in other words, instead of the center, we want it to come and offset. So when you look at those posts and things like that, that's what this extra part's for. So they're extra parameters that will then help you position the posts. So if I drop onto the extra parameters, I can look at the post itself and say I want that to be 0.15 and 0.15 in from the end. So in other words, I can clear the end of the slab. So if I get a preview, it then brings the post in 150 mil. Again, if I go and add in another rectangle, and I drop into properties, and then I'm looking at the plate or the base plate on it, and I'm going to pick up a slightly different color. And again, we're looking at height, and that's the thickness of the plate. And again, we want to come in 0.15. So we've now got our base plate for our posts as well. So back into our segments, we're now going to look at the roof. So in this case here, we've got a beam, a lintel beam. We've got the actual roof slab itself, or roof shape, and then we've got the rafters. The rafters are only going to be placed at the ends and one in the middle. So I want to go add in here. So I've got a profile, so I can pick use the populate panel. So just like the post, it allows me to pick several shapes in one go. I go set, and then preview. So we've got our bus bay starting to take shape. So at this stage here, the rafters are not really supposed to go all this way as one solid shape. So if I use the find button, I can find it's that one there that I'm after. So this is the extra parameters that will do this for you. So the extra parameters say, okay, I want to divide this up, and I want it to be 0.075, which is the width of the rafter itself. It's a metal rafter. And I want to go set, finish, and then preview. So with that other option before, if you do the inverse of that, you will get these pieces left between. So if you do that, turn those off, and go set, it will then leave the solid bits and the gaps in the middle. So you can see the gap here. But we want rafters, so we're only interested in that, the rafter part. So again, we go preview, and we end up with just the rafters themselves. So again, I've got a small panel here and a lintel beam to sit on. So again, I can go populate, and I can pick the panel and the small beam down the bottom, set, and then preview. Right, so again, the panel itself is running the full length of the string, and I don't want that to happen. I want it to come in slightly. So again, I use these extra options to drag back the starting point of this panel and the little beam down the bottom. So in that case here, I come into here and I say I want, say, 0.225, 0.225. Let's see, the panels come in slightly there. Okay, so again, if I do the same for the other one, so it's going to start a little bit further in relation to the post. So again, I can do the same thing for the seating. So again, I'm looking at a profile. So this profile is a little bit different. So what I've drawn inside 12D is a shape that has holes in it. It's got an outside shape with 3 holes added to it. So you can do that under your CAD hole commands up here. So I go set and then preview. It'll then show me the holes on the shape of the seat itself. So again, we're looking at coming in slowly. We don't want them to sit out there. So again, we use these extra things to come in. So when I come in, say for the seat itself, say 0.45. Again, if I go preview, we can now see that the seats come in a little bit further. So we might necessarily need to run that far. We could have made that say 0.3 and 0.3 and preview. Again, we've now got the seat, so we now need to do the uprights, the supports for the seat itself, which is this shape here. So again, I insert another line, I pick profile, and I select that shape. This one has no holes or anything in it, but I can go under properties and use the thickness of the shape and pick up a different color. And I can go preview. So again, it now shows you that this is a solid shape in relation to that. So again, I've got to use the extra options, the parameters, to tell it, like I did with the rafters, how often I want those supports. So I come into here and I say I want those, and I want that 0.1 and 0.1 for that one, and I want to come in, say 0.45 from either end. Preview again, and we now get the uprights for my seating. So again, I've drawn the rectangles for the end supports here. They're probably not necessarily supports. They might be advertising or just for decorative points. So again, they're just a simple shape. So I go profile, and I select the shape here that hasn't got any holes in it. So again, I can drop into properties and I can give it a thickness and a color. And again, I need to to say what size it is. So I just like the rafters and these supports for the fence, for the seat, but I only want one at the start and one at the end. I don't want one in the middle. So I'm just going to do start and end. So I want it to be 0.1 thick, and I want it also to come in slightly from the end. So I'm going to come in slightly there, and then preview. So now I've got my my panels lined up, and so all I need now is to have the insert done. So I'm going to pick up profile and go and select the insert now. Under properties, I'm just going to give it a color. And in this case here, the extras are going to work out what I want to do. So I want to make it only very small, so 10 mil thick. And I might want to come in 0.15, so they're a little bit different compared to the wider panel it's going to sit inside. So now all I need to do is the small supports. So these are just like I did with the construction fence. I've just drawn 2 strings and given them a pipe size. So I go back under here and I go populate, and I select the 2 strings. I want that one and that one. I can change those to both to circle if I want. So again, they both come in, okay, and they're both set up nicely with the positioning. So I'm finished with the bus bay. So again, it's now I write the file off. So again, I should specify names for everything. Yeah, so when you pick on you know what they are, and any other attributes you might want to specify in relation to its coatings and all those sorts of things. But for the time being, we'll just go write that file out. Right. So to position all that in the real world, is that I then do have a design job here. So again, we're going to go up under BIM Trimesh, and like we did in the previous webinars, we're going to use apply. We'll just do it on the same model. So I pick up a string that represents my fence, and I grab under my demo, I grab our landscape fence. I'm going to put it onto a model, Trimesh demo. In this case here, the regular interval is 2.5. So again, no matter how many verses you have on this string, which could have come out of an apply menu or a survey string, it will only sample posts every 2.5 meters and put a post where there's sharp bends. So again, I pick up those 2, run process, and then goes and creates the fence itself. So again, if I go up into my other construction fence, and I pick that string up there, again I then select the construction fence instead, and I also say I want panels and wires. A process, it then creates my fence on the side with the wires and information about it. Here's my my little short bus bay. So again, if I pick the bus bay string and I drop down to my demo and grab bus shelter, so it doesn't need an intervals because it's meant to go from one point to the other. So I pick up both those and go process. So again, it'll then use the 2 points in either end of that string to represent the shape of the bus bay itself. So again, at the very end is our services. So again, I select our service. So this one here is just locates the bottom of the trench. So I pick up my demo and I grab trench conduits 300. So I want to specify a tin surface, say 0.1 strip. I want to be every meter. That's how often it'll create the Trimesh down the road there for you. And I can then go process. So in that case there, if I can go Control Z to undo that, I can turn around and say at this point here, I want to be able to pick up the Trimesh profile, extend to a Trimesh, again pick up backfill, and we'll then use that tin surface I have there, so then turn around and extend up to the tin surface. So again, I can pick the one that already has my diameter set, which is my actual design string here. And I want to use the one that I use for the profiles. So I grab the 100 diameter one, and again, same sort of thing. It then creates the surface for you. So just a quick little idea on how you can create things. As you can see from here, most of the options are drawing profiles. Saves a lot of work, and the use of the parameters or extras to define spacings and things like that. So just like to thank you very much for attending, and I look forward to seeing you on the next webinar.
Thanks for that, Peter. The recording of today's webinar will be available in coming days through the webinars page of our website and on our 12D Model YouTube channel. Keep an eye on our emails and social media for details of our future webinars. If you need to contact us in the meantime, our details are on the screen now. That concludes our presentation for today. Thank you all for attending, and we hope to see you at future webinars.